Dad, Grandma left us. She said we were unnecessary baggage and just left us at the airport. My hands went cold. The Bluetooth in my truck echoed my son's shaking voice, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. I pulled over on I-75, barely avoiding the guardrail, heart thudding like a war drum. Wait, what? Where's your mother? I asked, gripping the wheel like it could hold the world together. She was there, and then she left too. I stared out at the road ahead, mind reeling. That luxury vacation I paid for, the first-class getaway to Bora Bora that cost more than my college tuition, was supposed to be for family. My kids, my wife, her mother, and her sisters. I'd planned it down to the damn lounge menu. And now my children were standing in an airport terminal like lost luggage because my wife's mother decided they didn't match her aesthetic. I ended the call with my son, promised I'd get them picked up, and pulled up the airline app. Everything was booked under my Amex. Every villa, every jet, every gourmet reservation. With a few satisfying taps, I turned that dream vacation into a logistical nightmare. I canceled every reservation before the plane landed. Let her sip complimentary warm water instead of champagne. Let her explain to her Botoxed friends why they're stuck at a budget hotel near the airport. But while I stared at the cancellation screen, a notification pinged in. An email from the hotel's concierge confirming a romantic couples massage for Mrs. Madison Collins and Mr. Zayden Brooks. Zayden? I didn't know a damn Zayden. I clicked through. Couples dinners, Sunset Cabana experiences, and worst of all, matching spa robes for Madison and Zayden. She had the audacity to use our last name for him. I felt like I was watching someone else's life unravel in real time. But it was mine. I drove home on autopilot, eyes locked forward, but brain stuck on replay. My wife, Madison, giggling at her phone at 1 a.m. The sudden obsession with her yoga coach. The overnight wax appointments. That new red bikini she said she bought, just for us. Yes, I was just the wallet. By the time I pulled into the driveway, something in me had already cracked. I wasn't the same man who'd kissed Madison goodbye that morning. I was someone colder, sharper, less forgiving. I walked inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kids had been with Madison's mom, supposedly en route to paradise, and I was left with silence and the scent of her perfume lingering in the bedroom. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were trembling, but not from sadness. No, this was a storm brewing. Something primal, protective, not just for me, for my sons. For the years I'd wasted building a life for a woman who saw her own children as disposable weight. I opened her laptop. No password. Rookie mistake. Within minutes, I found everything. Flirty emails to Zayden, saved selfies and lingerie she never wore for me, calendar invites labeled Pilates that were actually Airbnb links. The woman didn't even try to hide it. There were Venmo transactions to Zabro with captions like, "For your time, handsome face-blowing kiss." My face flushed with a heat I hadn't felt since college football brawls. This wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery. She thought she could screw around on my dime and leave my kids behind like forgotten baggage. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced. I planned. And when the clock struck 6 a.m., I brewed coffee, sat in our kitchen, and waited for her call. Or better yet, her excuse. She called at 6:47 a.m. I didn't answer. Let her sweat. Let her land to chaos and check her phone 1,000 times, wondering why her card isn't working, why the concierge says, "Sorry, ma'am, your husband canceled everything." Let her wonder what I know and what's coming next. Because this was no longer about just catching a cheater. This was about letting the liar taste the wreckage she created. This was about revenge. And it was only just beginning. She called again at 7:10, then 7:15, then 7:23. I sat at the kitchen island, sipping my black coffee slowly, deliberately, letting each ring echo through the house like a funeral bell. Her name flashed across the screen, Madison Red Heart. That little heart made me want to crush the phone in my hand. At 7:30, I finally picked up. Not because I wanted to hear her voice, but because I wanted her to hear mine. "Where are the kids?" she asked immediately. No hello. No explanation. Just that clipped, cold tone she used whenever something inconvenienced her. "With me," I said, calm as stone. "Where you should have left them in the first place." "Oh my God, did my mom not?" she started, but I cut her off. "Save it. I talked to them. I know what happened. Your mother called my kids unnecessary baggage. Then she abandoned them. And you stood there and let it happen. That's not what it. Don't lie to me, Madison. Not this time." There was a beat of silence, just long enough for her to realize I wasn't playing her little game anymore. I was going to call you. No, you weren't. You were too busy playing house with Zayden. Dead silence. Yeah, I said it. You think I don't know? I continued. Couples massage? Sunset dinners? Matching ropes? You gave him our last name. What the hell is wrong with you? Her voice, small now. How did you? I own the card, Madison. The one you used to fund your romantic getaway. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? You're not just a liar, you're a careless one. She started crying, that fake hiccup sob she used whenever she got caught. It wasn't serious, I swear. It was just, he made me feel appreciated. I laughed. Out loud. A bitter, angry sound that surprised even me. Appreciated? You had 2 kids with me. I gave you everything. You think Zayden would have taken you to Bora Bora on his salary? He's a part-time spin instructor. He listens to me. He understands me. Does he know you ditched your own children for a selfie in a 5-star tub? More silence. I didn't expect an apology. Not from her. She wasn't built that way. Madison could fake tears like she could fake loyalty, effortlessly and without remorse. You don't get to be the victim here, I said coldly. You left our kids. You lied to me for months. You had the audacity to use my money to fund your little vacation fling. And worst of all, you thought I wouldn't find out. Her voice turned sharp, like claws. You think you're some kind of hero? You canceled everything? You embarrassed me in front of my family. You made me look like a fool. You did that all by yourself. She hissed into the phone like a cornered snake. You always act like the perfect dad, the perfect husband. But maybe if you weren't so obsessed with control, I wouldn't have needed someone else. That was it. That was the moment the last string snapped. I stood up, voice like ice. Madison, pack your things when you land. You're not coming back here. Not to me. Not to our kids. You can go be appreciated by Zayden in whatever cheap motel you end up in after this trip falls apart. You're serious? She snapped. You're really throwing everything away over a mistake? No. I'm saving what's left of my dignity. And then I hung up. I stood there in the silence of our kitchen, the sun creeping in through the blinds like nothing had happened. But everything had. My marriage was dead. Not dying dead. Cold. Rotted from the inside out. And for the first time in months, I felt something like peace. I walked to my kids' room. They were still sleeping on the pull-out mattress, blankets tangled, faces innocent. They didn't deserve any of this. And I wouldn't let Madison hurt them again. The phone buzzed again. Another call from her. I blocked the number. Let her scream into the void. She made her choice. And I was done being her fool. By noon, her mother had called me 3 times from different numbers. Each time I let it go to voicemail. I knew what the messages would say even before I listened to them. Guilt-tripping, manipulation, fake concern wrapped in that condescending tone she always used when she talked to me like I was some glorified babysitter instead of her grandchildren's father. You're overreacting, Thomas, one message started. Kids can be difficult during travel, and Madison said she'd take care of everything. You don't need to make this into a federal case. She really said federal case. As if abandoning children at an international terminal was the same as forgetting a carry-on. Another voicemail came in from her sister, Lauren. Hey, Tom. I know you're mad, but this is family. Let's talk this out. Maddie's really upset. I deleted them all. This wasn't a family. It was a network of enablers, liars, and emotionally vacant women who played at being mothers and wives when it suited their Instagram aesthetics. When it came to showing up for real, they bailed. Around 2 p.m., I got an email from the hotel's reservation manager confirming that all services had been revoked due to an unauthorized cancellation. I replied quickly, just to twist the knife, fully authorized by the man paying for it. By 5 p.m., she messaged me from an unknown number. Just 3 words. You'll regret this. That was Madison. Always turning into the villain when she didn't get her way. No accountability. No remorse. Just venom and threats. I didn't reply. Instead, I printed out every piece of evidence I'd collected. Screenshots of texts, hotel confirmations, photos she sent to Zayden that she clearly thought would never see daylight. I didn't want them for court. I didn't even want revenge anymore. I wanted truth. I needed clarity. And then, for the first time since everything exploded, I sat with my kids on the couch. We watched a movie, The Incredibles, fittingly, and I hugged them tighter than I had in months. They didn't ask about their mom. Maybe they were afraid to. Maybe they already knew something wasn't right. Kids can feel fractures even when we pretend the walls are solid. The doorbell rang around 8 p.m. I opened the door expecting silence. But there she stood. Madison. Same flight I booked, apparently. Same Louis Vuitton suitcase I bought her last Christmas. Same crocodile tears. I just want to talk, she said. No hello. No. I'm sorry. Talk somewhere else. Tom, please. You've always been dramatic. No. I snapped. You've always been unfaithful. I was just too blinded by love to see it. She tried to step forward, but I didn't move. I wanted her to feel how unwelcome she was. I wanted her to understand the damage wasn't fixable. I made a mistake, she started. No, Madison. You made months of mistakes. You turned my love into your weapon. You turned our children into obstacles. You let your mother treat them like they didn't matter, and worse, you agreed with her. I was overwhelmed. So you found comfort in a 27-year-old spin instructor who calls himself Sabro? She went quiet. That was the first time she didn't have a snappy reply. You had choices, I said, lowering my voice, and you chose betrayal. Then I handed her a yellow envelope. She took it without looking, her face already twisting into that familiar mask of righteous indignation. What's this? Divorce papers. You're not sleeping in this house again. Not one more night. You'll hear from my lawyer tomorrow. Her jaw clenched. Her eyes welled up. But there was no apology in her stare. Just fury. Embarrassment. The bitterness of someone who just realized she burned down the mansion and thought she'd still get to keep the gold-plated bathtub. You'll regret this, she repeated. No, Madison, I said, voice like steel. I already regretted staying. And with that, I closed the door. Behind it, my kids laughed at some scene on TV. Real laughter. Warmth. Life. I leaned against the wood and let myself feel everything. The betrayal, the rage, the humiliation. But mostly, I felt relief. Because the lies were over. And I was finally free. The next morning was oddly calm. I woke up before the kids, made breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice, the usual stuff Madison always claimed she didn't have time for. I sat at the table, listening to the birds outside, and it hit me. The silence wasn't painful anymore. It was peace. I didn't have to brace for passive-aggressive comments, fake smiles, or the sound of her fingers furiously typing into someone else's DMs. The boys woke up one by one, rubbing their eyes and dragging their blankets to the kitchen. I ruffled their hair, poured cereal, and asked them if they wanted to go to the park later. They nodded sleepily. No mention of their mom. No questions. Just acceptance. I got a call from my lawyer mid-morning. Everything was in motion. He told me Madison had tried calling his office 3 times already, acting confused, asking if there had been some mistake. She even said she thought we were just taking a break to cool off. That woman had the audacity to think this was reversible. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about a break. This wasn't a lover's quarrel. She didn't just cheat on me, she humiliated me, used me, disrespected everything I'd built. She left her own children behind like afterthoughts and expected me to carry on like nothing happened. And I used to think she was the love of my life. Around 1 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Zayden. Not even kidding. He had the balls to call me. I let it go to voicemail, but the message played automatically on my screen. Hey man, I know this is kinda awkward, but I just want to say I didn't mean to cause trouble. Maddie told me you guys were basically done, and that she was living in a toxic situation. I'm not that guy, man. I'm just... I didn't know. I stared at the screen like it was a joke. Didn't know? So you're half naked in a resort with a married woman, and your only defense is she said it was fine? What are you, 12? I blocked the number. But it wasn't over. Madison started blowing up my inbox with long, rambling emails. The kind where every paragraph contradicted the one before it. One message claimed she only cheated because she felt neglected. The next said she never cheated, that it was all a misunderstanding. Then she blamed her mom. Then me. Then the pressures of motherhood. There was even one where she said maybe we could go to counseling and take a family trip to reconnect. The irony almost made me laugh. The woman who ditched our kids on a luxury vacation was now pitching therapy and bonding time. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She was unraveling on her own. 3 days after she returned, I got a call from her job. Apparently, she'd taken a leave of absence. Word had gotten around about the airport incident. Her mom's reputation took a hit too. Her bridge club, or whatever fake charity circle she was part of, started whispering. Good. Actions have consequences. It was time she learned that. That night, I took the kids to the same park where we used to do picnics when they were toddlers. I brought sandwiches, juice boxes, and a football. We ran. We laughed. We talked about school and dinosaurs and video games. And for the first time in a long time, they looked relaxed, not tiptoeing around their mom's moods, not scared of doing something wrong, just being kids. On the way home, my youngest said, "Dad, are we gonna be okay now?" I didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, buddy, we're gonna be more than okay." And I meant it, because I wasn't broken anymore. I was rebuilding, without lies, without manipulation, without Madison. Let her chase spa days and half-baked boyfriends. Let her figure out who she is without me propping up her image. As for me, I had something more valuable than revenge. I had my kids, and I had clarity. A week later, she showed up at the house. No call, no warning. Just knocked on the door like we were still living in some twisted version of a sitcom where everything gets fixed in 30 minutes with a cheesy apology and a hug. I opened the door halfway. She looked like hell. No makeup, hair messy, and some oversized hoodie I didn't recognize. Probably Zayden's. Her eyes were puffy, like she'd finally started crying for herself. "I just want to talk," she said quietly. "You've said enough." She took a step closer, hand resting on the doorframe like she was trying to physically wedge herself back in. "I miss the boys. Should have thought about that before leaving them at the airport like forgotten luggage." Her face twitched. "I didn't know my mom would do that." "You were standing right there, Madison. Don't play dumb. Don't pretend you suddenly grew a conscience." She looked down, chewing the inside of her cheek. "I made a mistake." "No, you made decisions. Over and over again. Booking that massage, sending him those photos, telling my sons they weren't welcome on their own family trip. That wasn't one bad night. That was who you are." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she muttered. That was the part that always killed me, how easily she tried to minimize everything. Like her marriage was a drink she spilled on her dress. Like wiping it off made it fine. "The kids are doing better," I said. "School, routines, everything. They're laughing again. Eating better. Sleeping better. You know what that tells me?" She didn't answer. "They were walking on eggshells around you. And I didn't even see it until you were gone." Tears welled up, but I didn't flinch. I didn't move. I'd seen that show before. "I'll never forgive myself," she whispered. I sighed. "Madison, I believe you. But forgiveness doesn't mean access. I'm not doing this dance anymore. I don't trust you. And I'm not putting our kids in the blast radius of your chaos. I'll get better. I'm already going to therapy. I lost myself." "No, you found someone else." "Big difference." Silence. She stood there a while longer, waiting for something. A crack in my armor. A soft place to land. But there wasn't one left. I started to close the door. "You'll get your chance to talk to the boys. Through the mediator. Until then, don't come here again." Her voice cracked as I shut the door. "You used to love me." I paused, just long enough for her to hear me clearly through the crack in the door. "I loved who you pretended to be." Click. Lock turned. Barrier up. And just like that, she was on the other side. I walked back into the living room. The boys were building something out of Legos, some spaceship with rocket boosters made of ketchup bottle caps. They didn't ask who was at the door. They didn't even glance up. And that told me everything I needed to know. They were finally healing. And so was I. 2 weeks passed. Madison didn't show up again, but the texts kept coming. Long ones, short ones, some angry, some pitiful. One of them just said, "Do you ever miss me?" I didn't respond to a single one. She'd become a ghost, still lingering around the edges, trying to haunt my peace, but with no real power anymore. That was over. She was over. The kids were settling in. The oldest, Ryan, started asking more questions. Not about the affair. I think he was too young to connect all the dots, but about her. Why she wasn't calling him. Why she didn't want to tuck him in at night anymore. I told him what he needed to know. "She's figuring out some things," I said gently. "And right now, we're keeping things calm. You've got me. That won't change." He nodded, but there was a sadness in his eyes that nearly broke me. It's one thing to get your own heart torn out, another to see your kid realize someone they love can let them down that badly. One evening, as we sat on the porch eating popsicles, Ryan asked, "Is Mom coming back?" I didn't lie. "No, buddy. She's not." He was quiet for a long moment, then looked up at me with wide, steady eyes. Good. That word hit harder than anything Madison had ever said. Good. He wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He was just relieved. Safe. Finally safe. That night, I sat in the garage and just stared at the wedding photo I hadn't thrown out yet. Madison in her designer dress, fake laughing like she was already somewhere else. Me, dumbly grinning, thinking I'd won something real. We looked happy, but now I couldn't look at it without seeing the truth hiding behind those smiles. I took it off the wall and laid it face down on the workbench. I didn't need reminders anymore. The next day, her lawyer emailed mine. She wanted negotiation. She thought the house was still on the table. She thought, somehow, she was entitled to share custody, part-time mom, full-time drama queen. My lawyer asked how I wanted to proceed. I said, we fight. Because this wasn't just about me. This was about Ryan and Luke. This was about keeping them in a home without games, without lies, without the emotional whiplash of Madison's moods and crocodile tears. Then came the bombshell. A friend of mine, Mike, an old college buddy, texted me a screenshot from Madison's new Instagram account. Private, but someone had leaked a few posts. There she was, standing in front of a yoga studio, holding hands with Zayden like they were prom dates. Caption said, "New beginnings. Real love." He healed me. Healed her? I laughed so hard I choked on my drink. That guy couldn't spell commitment if you tattooed it on his forehead. I knew his type, surfer boy vibes, no job stability, probably still lives off his mom's credit card. She left a marriage, a home, her kids for that. And she really thought she'd get sympathy? Let her have her fairy tale. The version where she's a misunderstood woman escaping a controlling husband and finding peace in the arms of a shirtless burnout. Let her live that dream. Because eventually, that dream will crack. Eventually, Zayden's charm will wear thin. He'll stop pretending to be interested in her Pinterest boards. He'll get bored. He'll cheat. Or she will. And when it all comes crashing down, she'll try to crawl back, thinking there's still a soft place to land. There won't be. I'm building something new now. It's not flashy. It's not full of filters and fake smiles. It's just real. Me and my boys. One night, Ryan hugged me tight before bed and whispered, "I like our house better now." I swallowed the lump in my throat and whispered back, "Me too." But, me too. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. It was quicker than I expected. Maybe she got tired of pretending she had any real leverage. Maybe Zayden talked her into settling so they could start fresh, without court drama. Whatever the reason, I didn't care. She walked away with a suitcase, a few designer bags, and half the bank account. I let her have it. Money I could earn again. Time, trust, peace of mind, those were harder to replace. The house was mine. Full custody, too. She could request supervised visits if she wanted to. So far, she hadn't. She hadn't seen the boys in over 10 weeks. Not a birthday call. Not a single message on Ryan's art project that got featured in the school newsletter. Nothing. It was like she vanished into that filtered fantasy life she always wanted. The influencer, the free spirit, the girl who chose happiness. The boys stopped asking about her. I didn't push the subject. But sometimes, I caught Ryan staring at old photos back when Madison still pretended to be a mother. He'd say nothing, just study her face like he was trying to figure out what he missed, what changed, why someone could just stop showing up. I knew that feeling. I got an email from a mutual friend around that time. Madison had started a blog. Of course she had. The first post was titled, "Reclaiming My Identity After a Toxic Marriage." She painted herself as the victim, said she lost her voice in a house full of expectations, that she was reborn through heartbreak. The woman who left her kids in an airport called herself reborn. I didn't respond to the email. Didn't rage or send screenshots to friends. I just closed the tab and walked into the living room, where my sons were building a blanket fort big enough to survive a tornado. That was real. That was mine. A few nights later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Tell the boys I love them." No name. No apology. Just those words. It was her. I didn't need confirmation. But love? Love? Love doesn't abandon. Love doesn't lie, cheat, manipulate, and then run when the mask falls off. I stared at the screen for a long minute. Then I locked my phone, tossed it on the kitchen counter, and turned my full attention back to Ryan and Luke, who were yelling at each other about who broke the left side of the fort. I didn't tell them about the message. She didn't earn a place in this house anymore, not even through a screen. Weeks passed. The boys grew louder, stronger, happier. I started cooking again, real meals, not frozen pizza and takeout. I took them hiking. We went to a drive-in movie one Saturday and made a whole evening of it. Blankets, snacks, stories under the stars. I started sleeping again. Deep, dreamless sleep. No more waking up to cold beds and colder lies. One morning, I found Luke standing in the backyard, barefoot, watching the sky. "What are you doing, bud?" I asked. He pointed up. "I'm making a wish." "On a cloud." He nodded. I wished Mommy would stop being weird, and that you'd be happy forever. I crouched down next to him, heart twisting in a way I couldn't explain. That's a pretty good wish. He looked up at me. I don't think Mommy's gonna come back. She's not, I said softly. He nodded, like he already knew. Good. She was always mad. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I just wrapped my arms around him and held him tight. That night, when both boys were asleep, I sat alone on the porch. A beer in my hand, the cool breeze brushing against my skin. No chaos. No manipulation. No pretending. Just quiet. And healing. And me. Not broken. Just done being lied to. And finally free. 6 months after it all started, I stood in the hallway watching Ryan read a bedtime story to his little brother. They were both under the same blanket, flashlight glowing between them like they were camping in a world far away from everything Madison ever touched. Luke was half asleep, his head on Ryan's shoulder, and Ryan was reading slowly, careful to pronounce every word right. His voice was calm, steady. They looked happy. No, not just happy. Whole. I turned off the light when the story ended and kissed them both goodnight. As I pulled the door closed behind me, I didn't feel grief anymore. Or bitterness. Or rage. I just felt done. Done with the pain. Done with the questions. Done carrying weight that wasn't mine to carry. Later that night, I opened my laptop and wrote a letter I'd never sent. To her. Not out of forgiveness. Just closure. Madison. You broke everything. And for a while, I blamed myself for letting you. But now I see it wasn't me. It was you. You made the choices. You told the lies. You left our children in an airport to chase some fantasy where you were the center of the universe. You thought love was a resource you could take and take without ever giving back. But love isn't an accessory. It's not a spa weekend or an escape plan. It's messy. It's real. It shows up when it's inconvenient. It holds your hand when you're drowning. It sacrifices. You never learned that. Zayden can keep his yoga mats and man buns. You'll need more than affirmations and smoothies to fix what's broken inside you. As for me, I survived. And I built something stronger. Not just for me, but for the boys. The ones you treated like noise. They're growing, thriving. Every day I see more light in their eyes. And every time they smile, I know I made the right choice. You lost us, Madison. And you won't get another chance. I didn't print it. Didn't save it. Just closed the tab and exhaled. In the morning, I packed lunches for school and added little notes to each bag. Proud of you. You're my hero. Today's going to be awesome. The boys smiled when they found them. That weekend, we went to the lake. I taught Ryan how to skip rocks. Luke tried to wrestle a goose. We got sunburned, ate too many sandwiches, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. Not even the version of her I used to love. She was the storm, but I became the calm after it. And that was the real revenge.